There comes a moment in life when God pulls back the curtain, and suddenly you see everything clearly. The manipulation, the lies, the emotional traps, all exposed by divine light. Narcissistic abuse doesn't always arrive with a warning. It creeps in silently, disguised as love, wearing the mask of care and affection. Victims find themselves confused, doubting their own reality, wondering if they are the problem. But God sees what human eyes cannot. He watches every tear you cried in secret, every night you questioned your own sanity, every moment your spirit was quietly crushed. When He decides to unmask the narcissist in your life, it is not by accident, it is by divine appointment. His revelation is your rescue. His exposure is your liberation. The unveiling is painful, but it is also the beginning of your greatest healing. You were never broken, you were simply blinded. And now, the blindfold has been removed. This is not just a story of abuse. This is a story of survival, of faith, and of a God who refused to leave you in the dark. Your journey to empowerment starts the moment you accept what God has already shown you. Narcissistic abuse is one of the most misunderstood forms of emotional trauma in the world today. Unlike physical abuse, it leaves no visible scars, no bruises, no marks that the eye can see. It operates in the shadows of the mind, quietly dismantling a person's sense of self, worth, and reality. Many people who have experienced it struggle to even name what happened to them, because from the outside, everything appeared perfectly normal. The narcissist is a master of appearances, carefully constructing a version of themselves that the world finds charming, generous, and admirable. But behind closed doors, a completely different person exists. The disguise begins long before the damage does. In the early stages, the narcissist presents themselves as everything you ever prayed for. They are attentive, passionate, and seemingly devoted. They speak your love language fluently, mirror your dreams back to you, and make you feel seen in a way you have never felt before. This stage is known as love bombing, an intentional, calculated flood of affection designed to lower your defenses and create deep emotional dependency. It feels like a blessing. It feels like answered prayer. And that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. As time progresses, the mask begins to shift. Slowly and almost imperceptibly, the warmth starts to fade. Criticism replaces compliments. Silence replaces conversation. Confusion replaces clarity. The person who once made you feel like the most important soul in the room now makes you feel invisible, inadequate, and constantly at fault. And yet, because you remember who they were in the beginning, you hold on. You chase that first version of them. You make excuses, you try harder, you shrink yourself, all in the desperate hope of returning to what once felt like love. This is where the trap tightens. The narcissist understands human attachment deeply, even if only instinctively. They know that once emotional bonds are formed, they can be stretched and manipulated without breaking. They introduce cycles of pain and reward. Moments of cruelty followed by brief returns of affection, keeping their victim in a constant state of emotional imbalance. This cycle is not accidental. It is the architecture of control. And within it, the victim begins to lose their grip on reality, constantly questioning their own perceptions, their own memory, their own worth. What makes the disguise so devastatingly effective is that it is not just worn for you, it is worn for everyone. Friends see a different person. Family members see a different person. Even spiritual communities sometimes see a different person. The narcissist carefully manages their public image while privately dismantling yours. When you try to speak your truth, you are met with disbelief, because the person you are describing does not match the one the world has been shown. This isolation of truth is perhaps the cruelest part of the entire experience, being trapped in a reality that no one else can see. But here is what you must understand. A disguise, no matter how perfectly crafted, was never designed to last forever. Every mask has a weight to it. Every false identity carries a fracture point. And there are eyes in this universe that no performance can ever deceive, no charm can ever manipulate, and no carefully constructed image can ever fool. Those eyes belong to God. And unlike the people around you who were charmed by the performance, God was never in the audience. He was never deceived by the smile, the generosity shown in public, or the carefully rehearsed words spoken to maintain an image. While the world applauded the mask, God was looking directly at the heart beneath it. Scripture reminds us that man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. This is not simply a poetic truth, it is a protective one. It means that nothing done in darkness, no matter how cleverly hidden, ever escapes his sight. God's exposure of a narcissist rarely arrives in the way we expect. We often pray for dramatic signs, for immediate vindication, for the world to suddenly see what we have been trying to show them all along. But God works with precision, not performance. His revelations are purposeful and perfectly timed. He does not expose a narcissist simply to embarrass them. He exposes them to protect you, to redirect your path, and to prevent further destruction in your life. What feels like a sudden shocking revelation was actually a carefully orchestrated divine intervention that had been in motion long before you ever noticed it. There is something deeply significant about the timing of God's unveiling. He does not reveal too early, before you are ready to receive the truth, and he does not reveal too late, after the damage has become irreversible. He moves in the exact moment when your spirit is strong enough to handle what your eyes are about to see. Many survivors look back and recognize that the moment God exposed the narcissist in their life was also the moment something shifted within them, a quiet but unshakable inner knowing that they could no longer unsee what had been shown to them. That knowing was not coincidence. That was God anchoring the revelation in your spirit so deeply that no manipulation could ever pull you back into blindness. When God exposes a narcissist, he often does it through a series of small but undeniable moments. A lie that does not quite add up. A pattern you can no longer ignore. A conversation overheard. A document discovered. A trusted person who finally speaks a truth they have been holding. These moments can feel random, even insignificant at first. But when you look at them together, they form a picture that is impossible to deny. God rarely uses lightning bolts when a still small voice will do the work more permanently. He speaks through circumstances, through people, through your own awakening instincts, all of it orchestrated by a hand that loves you too much to leave you deceived. What makes this divine exposure so powerful is that it cannot be undone. Human beings can be silenced, manipulated, or discredited. Evidence can be twisted or reframed. But when God plants a revelation in your heart, no amount of gaslighting can uproot it. The narcissist may try to explain it away, to rewrite the narrative, to turn others against your truth, and they may even succeed with some people. But they cannot succeed with you. Because what God has revealed to you was not delivered through human testimony alone. It was confirmed in your spirit, in your gut, in that deep and sacred place within you that only God has access to. And once He speaks there, the noise of manipulation loses its power over you. This is why survivors often describe the moment of God's exposure as both the most painful and the most freeing experience of their lives. Painful because the truth dismantles everything you believed about the relationship, about the person, and sometimes even about yourself. But freeing because you can finally stop fighting your own instincts. You can finally stop defending someone who never deserved your defense. You can finally lay down the exhausting weight of confusion and stand on the solid ground of truth. And it is on that ground, that sacred, God-given ground of truth, that something extraordinary begins to happen inside of you. You begin to realize that the shame you have been carrying was never yours to carry. For so long, the weight of what happened pressed down on you like a verdict, as though the abuse itself was evidence of some deep flaw within you, some fundamental unworthiness that invited mistreatment. You replayed conversations in your mind, searching for what you did wrong, what you should have said differently, how you could have been better, smarter, stronger. The narcissist's voice had become your inner voice, and it was merciless. But as God's truth begins to settle into your spirit, the first thing it dismantles is the lie that any of this was your fault. Narcissists are deliberate in who they choose. Contrary to what many people believe, they do not target the weak, the broken, or the damaged. They target the empathetic, the compassionate, the loyal, and the loving. They seek out people who have an extraordinary capacity to give, to forgive, and to see the best in others, because those are precisely the qualities they intend to exploit. Your kindness was not a weakness. Your willingness to love deeply was not a character flaw. Your desire to hold on and fight for the relationship was not stupidity. These were the most beautiful parts of who you are, and the narcissist recognized their value long before you realized they were being stolen from you. The guilt that survivors carry is one of the most devastating and long-lasting effects of narcissistic abuse. It is not a simple guilt. It is layered, complex, and deeply embedded. There is guilt for staying too long. Guilt for not seeing the signs sooner. Guilt for the impact the situation had on children, on family, on friendships. Guilt for the moments when you fought back, raised your voice, or lost your composure under unbearable pressure. The narcissist carefully cultivated every one of these guilt points, using them as anchors to keep you emotionally tethered even in moments when you tried to break free. Understanding this is not about excusing your imperfections. It is about recognizing that your reactions were responses to an impossible situation, not evidence of your character. God sees the full picture in a way that no human court of opinion ever could. He saw every provocation that preceded your reaction. He saw every boundary that was violated before you finally broke. He saw the version of you that existed before the abuse began, the light that was in you, the joy that was slowly dimmed, the confidence that was systematically eroded. And he saw all the private moments when you chose love over retaliation, patience over anger, prayer over revenge. You were not perfect in this storm. No human being could be. But God does not judge you by your worst moments in the middle of someone else's warfare against your soul. He judges you by the heart that kept trying, kept believing, and kept reaching for something better. There is a profound spiritual truth that many survivors discover on the other side of narcissistic abuse: that their capacity to love was never the problem. The problem was the vessel they poured it into. A heart that loves deeply, that extends grace repeatedly, that refuses to give up on people is not a liability. It is a divine gift. It is the very nature of God reflected in a human being. The enemy understood that, which is why such deliberate effort was made to corrupt it, exhaust it, and convince you to shut it down entirely. The goal was never just to hurt you. The goal was to destroy the gift inside of you by turning it against you. And yet, here you are. Still standing. Still breathing. Still, somewhere beneath all the pain and confusion, still capable of feeling. That survival is not accidental, and it is not simply a result of your own strength, though your strength is undeniable. You are still here because there is a purpose attached to your life that the abuse could not cancel, a calling so significant that even the most calculated attempts to destroy you fell short. The very fact that you made it through what should have broken you completely is itself a message, a declaration that you were covered, protected, and preserved for something far greater than what was done to you. And as that truth begins to take root in your heart, something else begins to stir within you. Something that no amount of abuse was ever able to fully extinguish. That something is purpose. And purpose, once awakened, cannot be put back to sleep. God did not bring you through the darkest season of your life simply to leave you standing at the exit of your pain. He brought you through it because on the other side of everything you suffered, there is an assignment waiting that could only be carried by someone who has walked exactly where you walked. Your scars are not signs of defeat. They are credentials. They are proof that you survived what was designed to destroy you, and that survival has qualified you for a level of impact that comfort and ease never could have produced. Empowerment is not something God offers you as a consolation prize for what you lost. It is the very reason He allowed the unveiling in the first place. Every layer of manipulation that was stripped away was also a layer of false identity being removed. Every lie exposed was replaced by a truth about who you really are. Every chain broken in that season was God's deliberate act of reconstruction, rebuilding you from the inside out into someone who is no longer defined by what was done to them, but by what God has declared over them. You are not the sum of your abuse. You are the sum of your resurrection. And so this is where your story turns. Not ends, turns. Because a story like yours was never meant to conclude in silence or in shame. It was meant to become a voice, a light, a living testimony that walks into rooms and gives other broken people permission to believe that they too can survive, they too can heal, and they too can rise. God exposed the narcissist in your life not just to free you from them, but to free you for something. For purpose. For greatness. For the extraordinary life that was always yours, and is finally, completely, and permanently yours to claim.